One of my favorite things is driving my car in reverse. It really takes me back. I used to work on my car quite a bit, but these days I use my desk. Ha! Dad jokes. All right, guys. Today we are going to be talking about, spending quality time with your kids, which is a big deal. I was talking to someone recently about how they had to change their schedule around because they weren't getting any time with their family. And of course, you know the old cliche, nobody ever says they wish they spent more time at work on their deathbed. I think that's totally true. My boys are 9 and 6 right now, and the real joy of my life is spending time with them and finding stuff to do with them. But that is difficult when you're a young parent. It can be a real challenge, especially. I don't know what it's like. Obviously I'm a dad. I'm not a mom. I don't know what it's like for women when they're really young. It's a little hard to get to know them really well. You just kind of always. My joke is when they're in the larval stage, they're not a whole lot of fun when you're just holding them and stuff. But once they start moving and once they start acting and interacting, that's when they start to get fun, and they continue to get fun as they get older, and you kind of start to share some interest, and you can share things with them, and it begins to be a real blast. My boys are really getting to that point. And I've got a few years, I can tell I've got a few years until they become, kind of rebellious teenagers, and they're a real pain in the neck. My 9-year-old's already starting to get into some of that kind of stuff, some of that back talking and, thinking that he's smart and he's got everything all figured out already, doesn't need dad's advice on anything. And I'm sure I was exactly the same way. And that's probably the worst part of everything to do with parenting is you realize that you did the exact same thing, that the things that your kids are doing that drive you nuts are the exact same thing. Because your parents have no sympathy. Whenever you complain about your kids to your parents, they do not feel sorry for you at all. They usually don't even grin. They usually don't say, oh yeah, you were that. They just kind of, uh-huh, sure, uh-huh, yeah. Like they don't even care. One of the biggest things, now when it comes to your kids, here's the thing you have to understand. Spending time with your kids is more about you than it is about them. Well, I shouldn't say that. A big part of it is about you, not just them. So keep that in mind. For one thing, it's true that you are their first experience with other human beings. So you set the temperature, you set their mood with how other people treat them. If you treat them harshly and you're negative and you're angry, then they're going to get used to the idea that being negative and harsh and angry is the right way to be, and that's okay. And you're setting them up for that kind of stuff. Now, on the total opposite end of that, if you let them do whatever they want, you let them just run all over you, you don't define any boundaries or any limitations, then they're going to expect other people to treat them the exact same way as well. So you do want to set boundaries. You do want to set limitations. You do want to set them up for success with other people, because there's no way you're going to make it through this world without learning how to interact with other people. The biggest hurdle that everyone runs into is other human beings. Very rarely are like physical objects and physical challenges your actual challenges that you deal with in the world. The biggest challenges that you deal with are other humans. So it's important to set them up right. And part of that is to be with them, to listen to them, to be in the moment. Now, for your own mental health and for your own improvement, it's really important, like I said, now you do set the tone, you do set all that, but for you, be in the moment with your kids. Don't think about what you have to be doing at work. Don't think about what you need to be taking care of, what chores you need to do around the house, what deadlines are coming up, what things to work on. Instead, focus on your kids. Focus on what they're doing. You will find that is almost healing in its own way if you can be in that moment when they're playing with their Avengers or they're playing with their cars, and you join in with them and just let that time go. Just let it go. Just give it to them. And you will find that that improves your mental outlook and your mental health. And the exact same thing with studying, and as they get older, when you get into that kind of stuff, be with them in those moments. When they're struggling on their math and you're helping them on their math, you can listen to them, you can pay attention to them, you can be with them in that moment, and that will help you key in on where they're having trouble at, instead of just plopping a book down in front of them and then diving in on your phone. That's always my rule with any kind of, that's my general rule with interactions with other human beings anyways. But with the kids, I put the phone away. I don't like sit and stare at it and then try to talk to them or anything like that. Times like dinner time, play time, study time, it's face to face or side by side, and I work directly with them. I listen to them. I pay attention to them. I don't talk so much. Ask them questions. Ask them probing questions rather than just saying you should do this or you should do that. Ask them, what do you think would be the best way of accomplishing this task? Let them work their way through it. Let them think about it, think it through, and then kind of guide them, give them a little nudge. If they say, let's take an example. Let's say, for example, your kid's wanting to have some sweets, and it's almost dinner time, and you say, instead of just saying no sweets, you could say, well, what do you think will happen if you have a candy bar right now and we eat dinner in about 10 minutes? And then, of course, if they say, well, nothing, I want the candy bar now, then you can, say, well, the last time you ate something like that, you weren't hungry for dinner and you didn't eat your dinner. So you can kind of, probe them that way, interact with them. And, the same thing with play. Play is so important. When they're playing with their toys, ask them, what's Thanos doing today? What's the Hulk up to? What do you think Captain America is going to do in this situation? And then the other thing that's really important that you really have to understand, this is actually true of adults as well, but we lose the magic as we get older, is you got to tell stories and engage them with stories. And like I say, adults are the exact same way. We absolutely lose this as we get older, but don't just talk to your kids about doing things. Tell them stories about your childhood, or just fictional stories. Tell them Greek mythology. Tell them bedtime stories. Tell them Mother Goose type stories. Tell them Grimm's fairy tale stories. Find within those stories, find lessons that they can learn within those stories. Why do you think the Bible is as popular as it is? The Bible, yes, there is like the 10 Commandments, which is a list of commandments, but that's about it. The rest of it are all just stories. And embedded in those stories are all kinds of life lessons. Same thing with the Iliad. Same thing with a bunch of other religious texts. Most really popular, famous religious texts aren't lists of to-dos. Most of them are stories. And it's through those stories. And that's what, you take a look at like Grimm's fairy tales, that's what they are. They're all morality tales. What are morality tales? They're little lessons embedded within a story. And it's stories is how humans learn. We learn through stories. We learn through narrative. We don't learn through, being told what to do. We don't learn through lists. We don't learn through commands. The way that we learn is through stories. So when you're interacting with your kids, tell stories. Tell stories about how you learned something. Open up to them. Be vulnerable. Talk to them about mistakes that you made as a child. Remind them that you used to be a kid too, and you're not perfect, and that will help them as they move forward. That kind of time and spending time with your kids is super valuable. You will never regret it. There will never be a time where you will say to yourself, I wish that I didn't spend so much time with my kids. It was a waste. That day will never come. So cherish it while you can and do it as much as you can. Until tomorrow, you guys have a great day. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I will talk to you then.